The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened is a documentary film directed by Jon Schnepp. Now you guys may know who that is. He used to be on AMC Movie Talk, which is now turned into Collider Movie Talk. I've personally met him. We've done a few YouTube shows together in the past. I was on the Masters of the Web panel at San Diego Comic-Con with him, and that's where I had a chance to pick up his film at his booth at Comic-Con. I was very intrigued by this movie for a couple of reasons. For one, Schnepp's a really nice guy. We got along really well, and I love the fact that someone who's on YouTube talking about movies got to make a film. That's very inspiring to me. And the other thing that greatly enticed me was the documentary's subject. It's about the proposed film, Superman Lives, directed by Tim Burton, original script by Kevin Smith, starring Nicolas Cage as Superman, the greatest living human being on Earth. All jokes aside though, I have a fascination with Nicolas Cage. I don't know what it is. He's amazing. Even in a terrible, garbage, shit movie, Nicolas Cage makes it awesome somehow. Except for Left Behind, my least favorite movie of last year. That movie just needs to be left behind. And just to get this out of your brain, I'm not going to be biased just because I know Schnepp and we got along and he's a cool guy and we're buddies. He told me, he was like, I want you to review this movie. I want you to review it. And I was like, are you sure you want me to review it? And he's like, yeah, I want you to review it. I was like, I'm going to be honest. And he was like, yeah, I want you to be honest. And I was like, awesome. Because I'm going to be honest. But I gotta say, I'm pretty relieved because I watched the documentary and it is a damn interesting and fun and fascinating documentary, so I do not have to take a poo on Schnepp. I was really afraid of that. I don't have to because I really enjoyed this documentary. Now the thing I loved about it is the fact that it really puts you in the mind of Smith and Burton and what these guys were trying to cook up together. You really have a good sense of the concept of this movie and you really recognize the fact that this movie would have been insane. It would have been extremely different from Superman's lore. It would have been absolutely positively a Tim Burton Superman movie. And as you watch the documentary, you wonder, would this have been a good thing or a bad thing? Yes, it would have been crazy and really strange and weird and totally different and unique, but it also could have taken a giant dump all over Superman's fans around the world for being too different. Now, one of the reasons this documentary has uncovered for the fact that it was so different is Jon Peters. Now, this man is a notorious producer. He was originally a hairdresser. He's now a producer, and in some strange way, he's become the villain of this documentary because people who are being interviewed by Schnepp all over the place have these things to say about Jon Peters that are not flattering. Kevin Smith says outright, yeah, he didn't want me to have Superman flying. He wanted there to be a giant spider. He wanted all these crazy things. He didn't want Superman to have this or Superman to do that. First off, he didn't want Superman to fly? Wow, I mean, that's terrible. That's a horrible idea. Gratefully, Kevin Smith was like, I don't know about that. And Tim Burton was like, I don't know about that. I'm sure that idea would not have stuck, but the point is that Jon Peters is a very interesting individual. And I like the fact that Schnepp doesn't outright say it in the documentary. He does a really clever way of editing together everyone's pieces and then going back to Jon Peters, who's almost in a way trying to provide a rebuttal of some kind to the things that the other concept artists and writers have said about him. And that's by far one of the most fascinating elements of this documentary. The other thing that I really liked about it is the fact that it kind of has something to say about the internet and the way we have this instant gut reaction to an image. This is the image of Nicolas Cage that went around the internet. It was crazy. Everyone was like, wow, thank goodness that Superman Lives did not happen. That was a terribly timed photograph of a very early costume fitting that should not have been released. Cage is in mid-blink. He looks like he's high. It's just a terrible snapshot. This photo, the final image of Nicolas Cage in his suit, is what people probably should have seen because that actually looks pretty damn good. Like, I know Nicolas Cage gets a lot of flack nowadays, but you gotta remember in the 90s, he had just won an Oscar. He was coming off of that Oscar win. This could have been really interesting and very different. And I like the way the doc explored that sort of group mentality the internet can sort of hoard on something without actually thinking beyond just one photograph. Now, one thing about the documentary that was disappointing to me was that I was looking forward to actually kind of understanding what Superman Lives would have been as a movie. A beginning, a middle, and an end, story, plot points, things that allow you to actually see what the film would have been like. And even though I just watched a documentary about the proposed film, I have a great idea of concept art and images and various ideas, but I have virtually no idea what the movie was actually going to be like from beginning to end. I have no idea how it was going to start. I don't know how it was going to end. I do know that Superman was going to be killed, similar to the Doomsday arc. He'd come back with a black suit, just like the Doomsday arc. But that's really all I know. I know a lot of concept art and images. I don't really know what the film would have actually been like. I have a good idea of the strangeness and the uniqueness of it. And that was a little disappointing to me because I still actually cannot explain how Superman Lives would have played as a movie, even though I just watched a documentary about it. But still, as a Superman fan, as someone who grew up loving the Christopher Reeve films and grew up loving the animated series from the 90s, and someone who is fascinated by Nicolas Cage and does like Tim Burton's Batman films, I'm very interested in seeing what this film could have been. I'm also a big fan of Kevin Smith. And so it's cool to hear their stories about this film, even though it doesn't get quite as passionate or quite as under the surface as I would have liked. I'm gonna give The Death of Superman Lives What Happened a B+. Guys, his doc is available right now for digital download, or you can order the Blu-ray or DVD from his site, which I have linked in the description below if you'd like to check it out. Thank you so much, as always, for watching, guys, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.